So the sky is falling if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan right now. It's after the first, and these guys are up 5-1. The thing is, a 5-1 lead, that's nothing for Dallas's goaltending, so I'm not writing Toronto off yet because it, Leighton and Niemi are both prone to allowing a lot of goals very quickly. All right, trade speculation. So the NHL trade deadline looms, and of course, TSN capitalizes on it. TSN's trade deadline coverage is good, and deadline day is good. Free agent frenzy day is good. You know what was better? Was when on trade deadline day, Jay Onrait did a live blog. His live blog was so much more entertaining than anything happening on deadline day that I would pay more attention to his blog than whatever was happening on television. I missed that. Um, now that Jay Onrait's moved on to the States, I missed that blog. Because the deadline's always something that we want it to be, and then it never is. So today's article on TSN is that Marc-Andre Fleury is sitting in favor of Matt Murray. What a surprise. And then they ask Fleury about whether or not he's upset that he's not playing, and of course he's like, "Oh, I'm fine," because what else is he going to say? Screw you guys, I want to play. No, he's obviously not going to do that. Fleury's numbers are bad, comparatively speaking to Murray's. They've been terrible, and his trade value is not going to be what Pittsburgh's going to want it to be in order to trade him. Because here's the thing. So let's say they just trade Fleury. They go, we got to get rid of a goalie. Well, Fleury right now is not attractive to an expansion team. He's a little older, and he's clearly over the hill, and you know, there's going to be better options out there. I really don't think Fleury's the guy to go. And if you're Pittsburgh, you're fine with Fleury being the guy to go. If you can make a deal with Vegas and say, look, can you guys take him? We'll offer you this draft pick or that prospect. Take it. Take it. So I don't think that the trading of Fleury is going to go down the way that they think it is. Let's see. Newsday's Islanders beat reporter Arthur Staple was asked prior to the All-Star break what the team could do to improve their cap situation for next season. He suggests the Islanders should buy out or trade recently demoted goaltender Jaro Halak. See that, everybody? My channel, just as knowledgeable as a lot of these insiders, these reporters. And then you could move, and then he's got a list of guys who could move out of New York: Josh Bailey, Nikolai Kulemin, Ryan Strome, and Thomas Hickey, also known as mild bust in terms of what his upside was seen as. Kulemin is done. Strome likely never becomes what he was going to be either. Him and Bailey should be packaged together, and they would be good expansion fodder. Again, expansion teams like young players with potential. They like being able to put them in a spotlight and give them that chance to shine. And guys like Strome and Bailey are perfect for that. And Thomas Hickey, a decent pickup, I guess. And then, however, Staple points out, the Islanders have plenty of cash coming into the payroll after 17-18 and therefore are unlikely to make any big moves until next July. Like, I just, you know, I don't see... Come on, there's other rumors in here. All right. It's under the Trade Center. So, the latest article is Duchene on Predators' radar? Sure, yeah, they'll trade Matt Duchene inside the division. No, I don't see Joe Sakic if he trades Matt Duchene. I don't see him trading him to Nashville for anything less than a king's ransom. You don't trade a potential franchise player like Duchene in the division and not get tons back. Bolts could strike deals for Bishop and Blue Liners before deadline. This is from 9 hours ago. Hear that? TSN's reporting that Ben Bishop in Tampa could be on the move. Yeah. And Blue Liners. Everybody wants Blue Liners. Drager, Oilers in the market. If there's a market. Okay. I don't think the Oilers are going to mortgage anything in order to take a run this year, but all right. Habs interested in Avs Matt Duchene. Okay. Wild. Nesterov trade could mean more deals. Nesterov just wasn't being used in Tampa. It's not worthy of a huge video. I think Nesterov's a good 5'6" defenseman. I think he's got decent puck skills. He's going to help Montreal. Not a game breaker. Whatever. And then further down, this is from January 27th. Penguins want to make a Fleury deal sooner than later. Of course they do. And then Canadians acquire Nesterov from Lightning in exchange for Jonathan Racine and a 6th-round pick in 2017, which means Nesterov's going to be exposed in the expansion draft. We want to get rid of him now. That's what that trade says. Because with Tampa's getting back, Racine's not going to get picked up on the expansion draft. Verbata's bonuses could affect trade. Yeah, they could. And then January 26th, pressure to move Fleury? Question mark. Is pressure growing on the Penguins to find a new home for Fleury? Could Matt Duchene be on his way to Colorado? How will the Flyers handle their situation in net moving forward? The insiders have the latest on these and more. Also, January 26th, should the Leafs trade JVR to upgrade the blue line? The answer is no. January 26th, Avs Duchene open to trade. I think Matt Duchene's probably sick of hearing about himself on every bloody sports channel and every sports website that has anything to do with hockey. Drager, prices will fall closer to trade deadline. Nope. I don't think they will this year because there's not enough sellers. I think the sellers are going to continue to charge a premium for what teams want, and I think that's going to leave a lot of players just hanging out there. Will Caps or Pens try to one-up each other before deadline? Hopefully not, because usually a team that tries to make acquisitions looking towards another team and what they're going to do, usually they fail. 2012. Between 2011 and 2012, the Vancouver Canucks, who lost in 7 games to Boston in the final, beefed up their team. They beefed up their team to play Boston. They beat Boston. They then lost in the first round of the playoffs. You can't build up your team looking at another and go, okay, we got to make more moves than them. Look at your own team. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. You have to have faith that your own team can get it done. Because moves coming in at the deadline can sound great, but they can screw up your roster too. And then Ward, Habs shouldn't mortgage their future. Okay. Mackenzie on January 25th. Maple Leafs will do anything to improve defense. It's the second time. January 24th to talk about the Senators acquiring Tommy Wingels, which was a very good trade for Ottawa already. Although Buddy Robinson, I tell you, San Jose fans, I think are going to like Buddy Robinson. Drager, trade markets paralyzed by parity, and all these screenshots they've got avalanche. January 24th, talks of Leafs hunt for a number 1 defenseman won't go away. Number 1 defensemen don't get traded ever. Not while they're number 1 defenseman. Countdown to trade deadline. Suggested target for Senators, and there's a shot of Duchene. January 24th. Hard for Habs to make a move. It'll be expensive for Canadians to land an impact player before the trade deadline, and then a couple days later to pick up Nesterov. So, January 21st, Kings acquire Schilling from Hawks for Latta. Doesn't matter. January 23rd, what's next for Boston and Colorado? And they show Claude Julien looking upset and worried. Fluid situations in Boston and Colorado. Who's staying and who's going? How pressed are the Sens to make a trade to fill MacArthur's spot? That's from January 20th. I guess the Senators read that one out, got Wingels. January 20th, Drager on Shattenkirk's possible fit in Toronto. January 19th, is Julien in jeopardy in Boston? January 18th, what each NHL team needs. January 20th, the St. Louis Blues need a goalie. Well, that gave away the spoiler from the other article. 29, Bergevin's ambitious, but timing is everything. January 19th, time is not right to trade Nylander. Yeah, James Duffy, they actually discussed trading William Nylander because, that'd be smart. The Leafs have a really good young nucleus that's right now in a playoff spot. By all means, take one of the main guys, just fucking pitch him. Just pitch him right out of there. Just take him and just rip him out. Just whip him out of there. Remember back when the Oilers in the early 80s, they had this great nucleus of players who could potentially have been something, and they just whipped Yeri Curry out of there? No. And Nylander is not the Harry Curry of the bunch, but could be the Glenn Anderson of the bunch. You don't do that. Should the Leafs pull the trigger on a move before the deadline, and they got a picture of William Nylander in that one. January 17th, Duchene heads first trade bait list. January 15th, Shattenkirk likely not on Leafs radar, so that was 5 days before. What would the Leafs have to do to get him? Because we'll discuss the Leafs with everybody. All eyes on Abs as trade deadline approaches. That's from the 17th. 17th, Shane Doan. Trade would have to be so perfect. Don't take any trade to a contender you can get now, because you're done. January 30th, Wings have big decisions to make. January 29th, Coyote Smith not planning to waive no trade. That's Mike Smith. And good for him, because he should stay in Arizona. He's found a good niche there. January 28th, Duchene's asking price could be steep. Filed under duh. January 21st, latest on Shattenkirk. Trade Center features the trade bait list. It's just ridiculous. This is why I'm doing this now, because people ask me about, well, what about? The trade bait list, number 1 is Matt Duchene, number 2 is Martin Hanzal, 3 is Thomas Vanek, 4 is Matthew Perreault, 5 Gabriel Landeskog, 6 Radim Verbata, 7 Jordan Eberle. I can't see him going anywhere. 8 Kevin Shattenkirk, 9 Andrei Pavlich, 10 Yaroslav Halak, 11 Brian Gionta. So the trade market is so good that Brian Gionta, who I love and I have a jersey of because he's short like me, he's number 11 on the trade list. So it's not a great trade list, and yet he's listed ahead of Ben Bishop. So I'm not sure how that works. Number 12 on the list is Curtis Lazar. So somehow Lazar is bigger trade bait than Ben Bishop or Steve Mason, who's in. Like, why would Philly trade Steve Mason right now? Like, I know he's UFA, but you're near a playoff spot. You're really gonna ditch Mason right now? You're not gonna ditch Mason right now. Drew Stafford's 15th. Alex Burrows is 16th. 16 points in 44 games and a $4.5 million cap hit, and he has a new no trade clause. He's not going anywhere. Doan, Iginla, Fleury, Van Riemsdyk. That wraps out the top 20. That's the market. So anytime you want to know what's going on with the trade market, bookmark this video. Share it with friends. Tell everybody, hey, here's what's going to happen to the deadline. Not much. And whatever happens is not going to be reported on here. Guys are going to get traded that are not reported on this page. And I don't know where these guys fit in the best. I really don't. You know, Iginla, who knows? He goes back to Dallas, who drafted him, and gets them to the playoffs. Doubt it. Because again, that involves trading inside the division. So here's the thing. When you're looking for trade partners, like Shattenkirk, okay? Shattenkirk apparently wants to play East Coast American team. So Leafs fans, don't shine up a jersey for him just yet, because rumor has it he wants to play for an Eastern American team. That tells me Rangers, Capitals, Penguins. And I didn't see them mentioned in those lists. I didn't see them mentioned. It tells me Columbus, probably in the running. I know these teams are at or over the cap too. I get it, okay. But teams work around caps all the time, and at the deadline, if Shattenkirk is everything that a team wants, and if they know they can sign him long term, they'll move cap space out. They'll move somebody out. Somebody will be moved to an Arizona or Colorado. Somebody will be moved out as a rental with a draft pick, a second-round draft pick, in order for them to take on Kevin Shattenkirk. And whatever team picks up Kevin Shattenkirk, if they sign him long-term, I'm guessing will forfeit this year's first-round draft pick and probably next year's too. Because Shattenkirk is going to have a big price on him. But at the same time, if you're the Blues, you're in the running for the playoffs. Like, I know their goaltending's been garbage, and they've been falling, but you're in contention for the playoffs. You don't sell when you're in contention for the playoffs, so you have to get a guy back. So let's say Capitals. You have to say, well, can we have John Carlson? Washington goes, of course not. The conversation's probably over right there. Pittsburgh, you guys attached to Letang? A little bit. How do you guys feel about trading Ole Mata? Conflicted? Derek Pouliot? Not feeling it, but we can talk. Okay, so if it's Pouliot, throw in 2 firsts. No. So, there's a lot at stake for a lot of teams here, including St. Louis. St. Louis has to get somebody back. And it has to be a defenseman, and it has to be a top 4 guy. You can't. I get it. They lost Backes, and it's got to hurt for St. Louis Blues fans that you lost Backes and you didn't get anything back for him. But here's the thing: Boston's got Backes, and they're probably going to miss the playoffs. So you're probably not missing a whole lot right now with David Backes. He's got hurt once this year already, and I honestly think the Backes' best days are behind him. So I think Boston overpaid him. I think St. Louis probably got out from a potentially bad contract they would have had to give him for him to stay, and they'd still have had to trade Shattenkirk. So I honestly think that Shattenkirk should stay in St. Louis. I will laugh a lot if Kevin Shattenkirk is signed to a long-term deal by St. Louis. I would laugh pretty hard because if he signed, let's say on Thursday, he signs a 4-year extension in St. Louis. Deadline day just became 8 hours of Darren Dreger and Bob McKenzie trying to figure out who the AHL farmhands are that changed hands between Carolina and Arizona in a barn burner of a deal. That's probably the biggest deal of the day. I'm of course exaggerating, but it could turn out to be quite the quiet deadline day. And you guys let me know if Jay Onrait still does his blog. I don't think he does because I believe it was hosted on TSN. I could be wrong. Yeah, I remember following it the one day and just laughing really hard at it. It was so funny. It was awesome because he would describe what he was eating for breakfast. He'd talk about sitting around in his robe. He would discuss there'd be like a farmhand for farmhand deal, and he would discuss it like it was the most epic trade ever, and how he couldn't wait for the in-depth statistical analysis by Bob McKenzie on how this deal would completely change the landscape for the rest of the day, and how exciting it was to watch it wearing a robe and eating frosted flakes. Deadline day's on the 1st. Let me take a look. Deadline day's on March 1st. That's a Wednesday. Ugh. I don't have Wednesdays off. Yeah, I'm genuinely thinking, you know what? I should live stream trade deadline from here. I will ask work for that day off. Okay, I'll do you guys a favor. I will ask for that day off. In exchange for me asking for that day off and live streaming my reaction to these fantastic deals, I will agree to leave this video posted about how the trade deadline is usually just dead. And, I would ask you guys to just, the questions of, do you think so-and-so should get traded for this or so-and-so should get traded? I don't know. Guess this is as good as mine. And there's plenty of armchair GMs all over the internet. There's tons of them that just make it sound like it's so easy. And I think the one thing to consider right now, and the one thing to really, really think about is this. There are 31 GMs. Once Vegas pays $500 million, there's 31 GMs who can make deals. Every GM is looking to make a deal to make their team better, not to help the other GMs. So let's say Rutherford takes a shot to the head and offers up Sidney Crosby to the Leafs for Zach Hyman and a 7th. Lou Lamoriello doesn't say, "Are you okay? Are you bleeding out of your ears?" No, Lamoriello makes the deal and then calls 911 after the paperwork's been processed by the NHL. Once Sidney Crosby's a Maple Leaf, then he thinks about calling 911 to have somebody go and check on Rutherford because he's probably on the floor somewhere. And GMs are smarter now than they were 20 years ago. I look at I look back at magazines from 20 years ago, and honestly, GMs are a lot smarter now, and they think a lot further ahead than they used to. There used to be a lot more win now, win now, win now than you see at this point. So that's why it's harder to make a deal, and everybody thinks they're in contention for the playoffs right now, except for Phoenix and Colorado. But if I know it's Arizona, I'm still dealing with it. I know that if Arizona keeps winning, they're going to see themselves as playoff contenders too. They're only if this winning streak got to say 7, then they're not sellers anymore either. Then they're saying, you know what, we've got a really good young team here. We can't sell off any assets. And maybe they signed Verbata to an extension. He's been their best forward. He really has. So, all right, that's it from me on this issue. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're just browsing your way through. Tremendous numbers on the channel right now. I'm very excited about it. And thank you again for your support. I will be thanking you guys regularly. And you know, to any patrons to the account, to this channel, I have promised you guys exclusive content. You will get exclusive content ASAP. It's just been there's always something coming up. When you got a wife and 4 kids, there's usually something coming. 4 cats. There's usually something coming up that makes life a little more complicated. But I'm working on it. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you all again soon.